Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Remake. Chelsea Bonifade was a dirty blonde, hazel-eyed, nervous wreck. There was no Shakespearean way to put it. A sneeze had the girl run for cover, like a live grenade was tossed in her direction. She found solace in books, and yet she would see a library as too crowded for her comfort. If being an introvert could be mathematically cubed in real life, it would be her. A hall of mirrors stood before her, each one illuminated by a light inserted into the ceiling. At the behest of her date, promising that this would help with her anxiety and nervousness, she walked through the doorway and started her navigation, reflecting on not just the images before her, but on her memories of the past few weeks. For some reason, Tony Palmer had chosen her over all the other girls. Perhaps their outdoorsy demeanors put him off, given that they would exuberantly throw themselves onto any handsome boy with a large sum of money attached to his family's name. Or it could just be a personal preference. Chelsea never saw herself vainly, plainly applying a basic touch of makeup upon her visage before leaving her home to traverse the routine grounds of the school. It was during a day of taking her lunch out to the grounds that she actually bumped into Tony, her lunch meeting his shirt and adding more starch to it than what had been previously applied. He laughed the event off, but Chelsea was surprisingly insistent on washing out her mess. If anyone else found out about this at school, she couldn't bear to show her face around anymore. As for Tony, he had been with her for almost a month, exercising the second most important virtue of any relationship, which is patience. Even when she was ready to give up on the relationship, he would counsel her, asking her to give it a little more time. There must be a way for them to connect. Somehow, he told her, he had to bring out that more outgoing part of Chelsea. A carnival arrived in town during the fall, giving an opportunity to both. Chelsea never went to any event and hesitated in reluctance, but Tony insisted, pursuing this issue with the reason being that this could change her. Soon, she said yes. Tony meant well, she thought, as she stepped between the frames, and after gently bumping into a glass wall and gasping, she felt around and found an empty space on her left, which she turned and followed. As more of her reflections popped up, her heart started beating faster. It wasn't because of this place. She remembered that she was shown the entrance and exit, with a map shown by Tony so as not to panic. No, it was because of Tony. She felt better around him. Was this love? Another glass wall, this time with the empty space on the right. She turned. He's cute. It was barely a whisper, yet it prevailed in this lonely place. Chelsea stopped and slowly turned. All she saw was her reflection, its back to her, with its head turned to look behind it at her. She breathed in relief and continued walking forward, believing that maybe it was just a thought that she echoed out loud. This was a shorter hallway with a longer glass wall peering into darkness, while 3 panes of mirrors had 3 Chelseas following the original to the next turn. Another left, and as she was rounding the corner, she noticed that one of the reflections delayed. She came back, all 3 reflections now keeping pace with her, yet the third one down seemed slower than the rest. It almost acted reluctant. Chelsea shook her head, the images mimicking her action, yet the third one delayed again when the action ceased. She moved away from this image and headed left. No glass walls with black backgrounds were in this section, only more mirrors. This time, there were 2 openings flanking a reflective wall, made larger than the other mirrors via an upward slope in the ceiling, with a cross-reeded pattern like that found in shower enclosures etched across its face. As she drew closer to it, the space opened up in a faceted half-octagon shape, like prongs of a tuning fork that stabbed into their respective openings. 4 more reflections came into view, each one distorted by a warpage made underneath the reflective coating. One was short and seemed to jump from left to right. One was tall with a small head. One appeared to be getting bigger and wider, and one looked, well, like a normal reflection. Chelsea was curious as to what the image in the cross-reeded patterned mirror looked like. "I'm scared," there was that whisper again. Chelsea held her hand to her mouth. "I feel so exposed." Another one! She tightened her grip upon her lips. "This is stupid." Each of these voices, they sounded familiar. They sounded like the same person. It was her voice. Her mouth was starting to scream in pain, while a whine from within was blocked by the enclosing of her own jaw, aided by the vice grip of her hands. Despite this, it wasn't loud enough to drown out what she discerned as humming. She had not hummed since she was a child. Her eyes darted to the reflections, hoping that it was all just some elaborate prank, that there were other people in this place. At the same time, she hoped that no one else was here, as she didn't want to be seen like this. When she examined these facsimiles, one by one, they moved with her in almost all aspects save one. Their heads remained focused on her. Each one moved their own lips and gave a testimony, starting with the small moving reflection, seconded by the tall reflection with the small head, and nearing conclusion with the growing reflection. "I want to be brave. He can't see me like this. Damn it, what the hell is wrong with me?" That left the fourth one, the humming image. Chelsea slowly advanced on it, the humming increasing in volume. She was in front of this mirror, the reflection copying her every move down to the last muscle twitch. The sound it gave off reverberated not just upon the glass, but it was bouncing off of Chelsea's own body in synesthesia. It felt numbing, even comfortable, and then it stopped. Pain shot through Chelsea, and she clutched her side and her chest. She collapsed upon her knees, staring at the shoes of the humming image. It was still standing, looking down at her from some flat dimension. The humming came back, and the pain started to rescind. She stood back up and lifted her hand to brush away her hair. The humming image copied her movement, but when she lowered her hand back down, it kept its arm up and gave her a wave with scraggly fingers. Her nerve was failing, and she backed away. The humming lessened with the distance, but the rest of the voices increased as she retreated to the center. Chelsea felt herself bump into the cross-reeded reflection, and the voices quieted as suddenly as they had started, including the humming. She slowly pivoted, taking in the new reflection barely conceived by the cross-reed pattern. She could make out the dirty blonde follicles, the pale skin, the lack of clothes. She peered closer, placing her hands upon the glass. The distortion did the same, and she noticed that it appeared to hover above her, despite its fingers touching exactly where hers resided. There were its hazel eyes, looking upon her. There was its mouth, opened slightly like hers. Both were frozen in place, the distortion just barely a foot above her level. Condensation started to build before them, getting heavier until Chelsea could no longer see the distortion's face. She leaned closer, with the condensation spreading downwards as well as sideways. The distortion also leaned closer, seeming to plant its head almost directly on the glass. The condensation started to gather droplets, falling down the mirror in streaks. She could have sworn that she heard crying. The distortion reared back in an instant and slammed its face against the glass. Chelsea bounced back in fright. The distortion repeated the action again and again, moving faster with each strike. The condensation, once appearing white as a fog, was now turning red, just like the thing's face and hair as it struck once more, the heavy glass shaking under each impact. Chelsea cried out and ran, taking the left opening as a cracking sound emanated behind her. More mirrors, more distortions, left, right, blackened glass, opening, and Chelsea clutching her chest once more as that pain returned. "Where's the end?" she called out. "Tony, someone, please." Now her head started to throb as tears streamed down her own face. The room seemed to spin. Nausea was seizing her, and she braced herself. Somewhere, close by, she could smell something familiar. Cotton candy, caramel apples, the moisture of a cooling atmosphere. She was close. She knew it. She felt against the mirrors, the twisted apparitions also reaching back for her. Another left, and she finally saw it. Just around the last corner, the exit was revealed perpendicular to the last mirror. Something dripped past her right eye and hit the floor. She took it as a tear and moved closer to the final stretch. Another sound of dripping liquid was heard near her left side, followed by another and another. And she looked down, illuminated by the last 3 lights before the exit. There was a growing dark splotch on the floor. She looked up, being greeted only by the dark gray ceiling and the final mirror. More drips. Confused, she brushed her hand through her hair, feeling something wet upon her scalp. She pulled her hand back before her eyes. Red blood? She sniffed it. But there was no metallic aroma. In fact, it smelled nice, like freshly shampooed hair. She felt around her head again. More red. This made no sense. She turned to the final mirror. The sight of her blonde hair, broken in so many places, with splotches of red, ramped up the already rapid drumming of her heart. What's worse was that these splotches appeared to be growing from around her head to the bulbs and tips, spreading even to the front. She reached up and grabbed her bangs, her morphing reflection doing the same. Pulling her hair close to her eye, she could see that it was still dirty blonde. The reflection watched her panicked state with intrigue, releasing its reddening hair as she released hers. Her panic drained from her in that moment, a strange peace starting to seize her as the reflection smiled confidently. The pain was gone. The fear was shrinking. A coolness surrounded her, and she stepped back, the reflection mirroring her movements. She turned to look at her exit, just as this strange doppelganger looked out hers. They exchanged a glance one last time. Then they both moved to the threshold. Satchley. Fainbode walked out of the hall of mirrors, meeting Tony on the grass and kissing him on the lips. He pulled away, surprised at the sudden change in this young woman. "Hey babe, did you change your hair in the halls?" She smiled at him and caressed her auburn locks. "Yep." And then some. Out for the count. A knock, knock, knock came from the top of his coffin lid. Eckhard Freud closed his eyes and gritted his teeth. One day's sleep was all he wanted. One day of peace. That damn boy would jump at the shadows of his own bat wings. Eck pushed up his coffin and glared at the boy, not even deigning to sit upright. He kept his arms crossed over his chest. Yes, Dunstan. What is it? Dunstan Greaves stood there in his PJs, holding a blanket. He shifted from one foot to the other, looking awkward. I heard a noise, Ek. Ek's eyebrows rose. He tried to keep his voice even. A noise? You woke me, Count Freud, from his slumber for a noise? Well, what kind of a noise was it? A vampire hunter coming to stake me? The village populace come to burn me? What? Dunstan looked at his feet. He prodded the floor with his toes. Well, no. It was a different kind of sound. A spooky sound. A spooky sound. A spooky Ek sat up. You're an undead creature of the night, Dunstan. You're over 300 years old. And I turned you when you were 24. You can't be afraid of every creak and groan in this old manor. And most importantly, you can't be waking me whilst I'm getting my sleep. Dunstan sagged. He looked miserable. "Kay, sorry." Ekahard likewise deflated. Who could say no to those hypnotic eyes? They made him feel like a monster. Tell me, Dunstan, what can I do to make you feel better? Dunstan brightened a little. Well, I guess, maybe, I could sleep in with you today, Ek? He paused before hurrying on. Just for today, I promise I'll sleep in my own coffin tomorrow. Ekahard closed his eyes. Beelzebub, give him strength. Fine, fine. But just for today, I swear to the old ones that this is the last time, though. The boy started to scramble in. Oh, thanks a lot, Ek. It makes me just feel safer, you know? I can sleep soundly, knowing you're there to protect me. Ek scooched over to the far side of the coffin. The casket maker hadn't constructed it with two bodies in mind. All right. But don't hog all the duvet. You've got your own blanket there. And leave me some of the pillow, damn it. The boy snuggled down. His breathing slowed. Thanks, Ek. You're the best. G'day, buddy. Ekahard's grumpy exterior melted a tiny bit. He grumbled. Well, it's all right. Good day, Dunstan. Dunstan jumped, propping himself up on his elbows. Did you hear that? Ekahard groaned. One day, one single day, that was all he asked for. Sleep, he groaned. Lemme sleep. Dunstan remained half upright, listening. He raised a finger in the twilight of the closed coffin. A heavy thud and scrape came from beyond the casket's walls, as if on cue. That, Ekahard frowned. He blinked away the sleep in his eyes. Yes, he had heard that. A bat of worry fluttered its wings in the dusty corridors of his ancient heart. Could Dunstan's paranoia be hitting the stake on the head for once? What was it? I don't know. Ek, I think it's what I heard earlier. There's somebody else in the house. There's something in here with us. That woke him up. faster than a snort of garlic. Could it be vampire hunters? He thought all the hunters had gone extinct and passed from reality into folklore and legend. He didn't believe any existed anymore. But if they did, he ought to do something. He stirred, starting to sit upright. All right, he said, running a hand over his face. You wait here, boy. I'll check it out. If there's trouble, fly away. Be careful, Ek. Ekahard pushed open the coffin lid. He slipped like liquid through the gap, letting it close without a sound, sealing the boy safe inside. Outside, in the dark, thanks to those fancy blackout blinds, Ek's senses adjusted to the house. He sniffed the room, eyes glinting like a cat's. He attuned himself to the very particles of air as they floated around him. Something shifted down the corridor. A faint blue glow throbbed. A thud, a scrape, and a moan whispered along the floorboards. Ek's teeth extended, and his sharpened nails itched for a fight. Well, bathe him in holy water. Dunstan was right. Could you say the boy was crying wolf when against all odds there was one? Sometimes the boy had unfounded fears, but this time his intuition had proved to be an ally. Ek owed him an apology if he lived to see the moon's light again. Lighter than the motes of dust drifting in the gloom, he stalked towards the disturbance. A man was standing in the grand foyer, his back turned. He had an eerie, ethereal shine and swayed from side to side. His ripped shirt dangled from him in tatters. He appeared to be speaking to someone. A human? Foolish, foolish. Ekahard pounced. The man's body offered no resistance, and Ek passed through him as though he weren't there. Cold electricity crackled over Ek's skin as he pierced the stranger's form. Ek thudded into the wall, head spinning, bewildered. He looked up at his failed would-be victim, bats fluttering in his vision. The misty surface of the man's skin strobed in the gloaming. He looked down upon Ekahard, eyes furious, face drawn in a rictus of mourning. One side of his neck was a gaping black hole from which ink-black blood had gushed and stained both skin and cloth. He raised a hand and pointed at Ekahard, wailing, "Uh-oh." Ekahard had killed this fellow the other night. He'd brought him back to their place as a late-night snack. It wasn't good for his digestion, but sometimes you had to indulge. Other ghosts apparated on either side, like unwhacked whack-a-moles. "I am Shane Abbott," moaned the ghost, "and you have wrongfully killed me. I have woken the others too." There were many. Other voices joined in a choir of the dead. Oh, so many. Oh, sweet Je. Ah, oh, sweet Nosferatu. Wasn't that a kick in the blood-sucking teeth? The only way to get rid of ghosts was with an exorcism. And the only way to have an exorcism was with a priest. What vampire in their right mind would invite a priest into their home? They could spritz you with holy water or brandish a crucifix at you. And if the holy man did get rid of the hauntings, what then? They'd, bless the place. Dunstan's voice called out from the other room. Eck? Everything all right? Dunstan, my boy, said Eck, not breaking eye contact with the head ghost. I don't want to sound all aflutter, but I have bitten off more than I can suck here. We ought to contact the council. We need to vampire outside help. The hour approaches. Gold and silver thread shimmer in my candlelit chamber. The figures of 3 noblewomen standing beneath a garden tree in the tapestry opposite feel as much part of me as the veins in my still, slender hands. One holds a bunch of flowers, one carries a basket of eggs, and the third stretches out her hand to a pelican. Symbol of motherhood, it is said the pelican will pluck its breast and feed the young on its own blood rather than see them starve. I can almost hear the mocking laughter of lives mercilessly cut short. In my dreams, the piercing cries of unquiet souls falsely accused. Grisly husks with popping eyes, whose contortions form a grotesque parody of life. Your time will come. We are waiting. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing, while the rest of my body crumbles. My ears hear well enough. In the early years, wigs lent majesty. Later, they covered the true extent of my hair loss. In my next dream, I enter a hall of mirrors, long forbidden in my palaces. Wigless and mask-free, I recoil at the gray tufts springing from a once noble crown. I'm dismayed by the sunken hollows that pass for cheeks, and my neck is a cavern of worms. I open my mouth to find stumps rattling in my jaw like beaten soldiers. My eyes, once glorious pools of gold brown, are blackened pits. I wake up yelling, and Cat is there to soothe my brow, as she did when I was a child. Yet Cat died years ago. You killed her with overwork. The hour approaches. Only last week, I was indulging in my favorite candies, and my neck was bedecked in a fine ruff with loops of hanging pearls. Since then, I've barely eaten, though my thirst is unquenchable. Knowing I no longer have the stomach for wine, my maids pour weak ale down my unprotesting throat. That way, I live longer. Pain and melancholy have been my bedfellows for so long. No amount of bloodletting of the body's humors can rid me of them. I must remain upright. I was once a tall, striking creature with auburn hair. Unfortunately, my womanly body was regarded as unfit to rule on account of its corruption, the result of Eve's fall from grace in the Garden of Eden. I had nightmares of a ghastly preacher shaking his fist at me and inveighing against the monstrous regiment of women whose ruling over men was deemed repugnant to nature. However, at the key moment, my imperfect flesh became wedded to the body politic. By some mysterious process, it rose above physical limitations and took on a perfect form. Early on, I learnt to suppress any sign of weakness and use my femininity as a weapon. Born under the sign of Virgo, I was married only to my people. As expressed in my clothing, I sacrificed self for their symbolic love. Over the years, this red-painted cochineal mouth has issued commands, witty rejoinders, sarcastic ripostes. When it suited me, occasional snippets of wisdom. These childlike lips had courtiers running to do my bidding, trembling lest they displeased me and lost their heads. Little by little, I emerged from feebleness, impressing statesmen, and learned men alike. On my progresses through the country, I was said to have the common touch. Waiting for hours to catch a glimpse, ordinary people were touched by my concern for their comfort and welfare. Admittedly, there was precious little to be had in some of the city's hovels. You put on a good show. But the hour approaches. Finally, my supreme moment came. The defeat of the Spanish Armada turned my country's fortunes around. After exhorting the men encamped at Tilbury to victory before they set off in their cannoned ships, I emerged as Gloriana. I may have had the body of a feeble woman, but proved I had the heart and stomach of a king. Perhaps triumph entrenched me, made me more like my father. Loved and feared in equal measures, he bestrode the court like a colossus. A rule which started full of promise grew tyrannical. People feared for their lives. Now you fear for yours. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing. You may wonder how I could love a man who in one foul swoop instigated the destruction of my mother when I was not yet 3. My first brush with death. Even now, I'm unsure whether it was love or fear that drove our relationship. I never spoke to anyone directly about my mother, least of all the king when he lived. My early sagacity may have saved me during my most perilous moments. During my sister Mary's reign, my very survival hung in the balance. I died many times in my mind then. The consummate player, I played for the highest stakes and won by a hair's breadth. Even when I succeeded to the throne, I rarely let my guard down. Those I've truly trusted have been few and far between. But if I outranked them all in terms of flair, capacity, and intellect, I didn't do it alone. I took advice from the best counselors in the land, namely, my dear Cecil, who served me faithfully until he died a few years ago, and whose son now takes his place. Perhaps the older Cecil didn't always please me, But without him, the burden of politics presses heavily. The well of depression, which first opened when I lost Kat, my governess and dear friend, deepened. I miss her. Take those leeches away, and let me have some peace. Nay, none of it feels like winning now. There's nothing triumphant about lying swaddled in a heap of cushions, even if they are in Richmond Palace's private quarters. Our family often decamped here to escape the turmoil of state affairs. Yet this dreamscape of towers and turrets overlooking the river has become a glorified prison. A servant stokes the fire, keeping off the last of winter's chill before spring's sweet arrival, which I won't see. With each passing day, my ladies add more cushions, so when my legs buckle from the strain of standing for hours, no bones get broken. You need to rest and get some sleep, Your Majesty, except to lie down is to face death. Your hour approaches. Ignoring the doctor's wheedling, I remain fixed as the northern star. He and Cecil work in tandem. The smooth politician, who isn't a patch on his father, and the oily medic grown greedy on royal patronage. Between them, they will pluck the name of my successor from their childless queen's lips, if it's the last thing they do. Of course, I should never have agreed to have the coronation ring removed from my finger to relieve the swelling. I'd not taken it off since my coronation all those years ago, and nothing has been right since. However, I'm adamant that my mother of pearl locket ring remains on my finger for as long as I breathe. What happens next is beyond my control. I trust the women who wait on me will honor my wishes. Only 2 weeks ago, I was able to cast the pain aside and demand my wardrobe mistress clothe me in a fine linen dress and put a ruff round my neck. Enduring the discomfort of hoop and bustle, my face was covered in a thick layer of white lead makeup to cover the pox I was left when I caught smallpox as a young queen. The daubing of my wrists in sweet perfume made me feel almost human. Now sunken in cushions, the chime of bells reaches across our fading fields. I catch the tail end of whispers, infuriated at not being able to hear precisely what's being said. I can no longer demand they tell me or suffer the consequences. The nightmare of that fortress rising above me is upon me again. At the time, the sight of the royal prison almost unhinged me, but a mistress of deception must survive such trials. My elder sister Mary was ruling the country with a rod of iron, and the stakes were kept busy dealing with dissenters. To be so fierce in her beliefs may have been my sister's undoing. When I first became queen, I refused to make windows into men's souls. So long as people confirmed to the Anglican religion carved out by my father, they had no need to fear. Yet in your reign, you've ordered more deaths than your sister. Your hour approaches. The very mention of the tower would make the most hardened traitor's bowels shrivel, especially with the threat of torture. As a member of royalty, I would not have to suffer the horrors of Wyatt and his supporters when their rebellion failed. Although I distanced myself from all plots to overthrow my sister, every failure put me in peril. With rumors and counter-rumors circulating of my complicity, I daily faced the threat of destruction. I vividly remember that journey to the tower, passing scenes of horror and desolation. Heads and body parts mounted on spikes at the city's gates displayed the consequence of treason. As we approached, I heard the blood-curdling roar of its lions and turned feverish. To be revisiting the place where my mother had spent her last days, and to have to endure interrogation, seemed beyond me. But I kept my resolve. Any consolation in being given pleasant rooms was short-lived when I discovered the only means of stretching my legs meant having to pass the sight of my mother's scaffold. If it came to it, I'd planned on asking for a French sword rather than the cumbersome axe. My mother had made exactly that request before her execution, and then had to suffer the agonies of waiting for my father to grant her wish. Much later, I learnt there was talk of sparing her and allowing her to flee to a nunnery. When the king's love turned sour, he had punished her failure to produce a male heir by getting Cromwell, his clever and formidable politician, to accuse her of numerous acts of treason. They included witchcraft and adultery, including with her own brother. No woman's name was more besmirched. She had been called the king's whore before he made her queen. But she met her death with dignity, making a wise speech to the gathered crowd. In a stroke, she was dead, but not dishonored. I gleaned the details of my mother's final days, long after her death. I dimly recall seeing her as a child. I did not live with her, and when her deliveries of lovely clothes dried up, I sensed something was wrong. In the flickering candlelight, they have coaxed me to bed, where the dark night hovers waiting for my soul. I've always been surrounded by people wanting something. The country's most senior men wait here, watchdogs to a diminishing power. Even a queen cannot hold back death forever. The hour approaches. My physician presses my wrist and clears his throat. Your Majesty, there's the matter of the post-mortem? No cutting, but with great humility. It can be helpful to know the cause of illness for future understanding and inquiries. No, and, the issue of embalming? No, it is usual practice with royalty. No, of course, Your Majesty. His shoulders slump. He will have nothing interesting to report for posterity. The Archbishop arrives carrying oils. Must speak. Alone. My voice cracks. Everyone to go. In the silence, The Archbishop reaches for my hand. I dreamed of Mary again, I whisper. Which one? Your sister? Or the other one? My cousin. She was the Queen of Scotland. I should never have signed the death warrant. I didn't mean it to be sent. It had to be, Your Majesty. She was complicit in the Babington plot. I tell you, my hand was forced. It was unseemly. I fear God will judge me harshly. Yet, while your cousin lived, you were in constant danger. She was your ultimate rival. But then the manner of her death. Arg. She was not felled straight away. I heard her dog ran out from under her dress, howling. And then they dipped his nose into her blood. Bitter tears form runnels in my makeup. To go the grave with such thoughts is abominable. What is done cannot be undone, Your Grace. But will I be pardoned for my sins? You will be pardoned and treated as a queen in heaven, as you are on earth. But his voice lacks conviction. Have you thought any more about the most pressing matter? The kiss of his lips to my hand is like the flutter of a bee's wings over a honey pot. They need to know. Who will it be? A vacant tear falls onto the pillow. I have no heirs, so it will have to be Mary's son, James. But I'm damned if they're getting it out of me till I'm ready. They plagued me to marry and produce an heir, although no man ever pleased them. I played along with their schemes, kept them dangling while they sought out the best alliances. My maids were bribed to report the regularity of my monthly bleeds, but in the end, nothing could induce me. When it came to it, I couldn't allow a man to rule over me. Not even Dudley, who I almost loved. At least until our ardors dampened to the warmth of friendship. But how could I forget what happened to my mother when she married my father? And his love turned to hate. Or how my sister's husband deserted her and returned to Spain, leaving her bereft and childless. I played all proposed alliances off against one another, secretly resolved to remain single. No matter that the cushions have been removed. I request the assistance of my ladies to help me out of bed so I can see the tennis court from the window. I remember Dudley, long gone, playing hopelessly to amuse me. He was, however, a fine horseman, and we spent hours riding together. The only time I felt truly free. My chief counselor strides over, touches my shoulder. Your Majesty must go to bed. A knight and leader of the Privy Council he may be, but I will not abide such insolence from a whippersnapper. Little man, you do not use the word must to princes. Your father would not have spoken so. The truth is as bitter as gall. Knowing I must soon leave this life makes him presumptuous. England will have but one queen and no master. The roar of the lion is in my ears. At my coronation, I wore my mother's crown. It fitted me well, lying in bed, strangled by unspoken words. Their waxen faces loom, pressing for the name of my successor. Will it be James of Scotland, Your Grace? My mind flips back, and I'm riding in the barge along the Thames, heading towards the tower again. I keep telling myself I'm a passenger, not a prisoner, but my body has swollen. After my sister, I am the rightful heir to England's throne. My father restored my legitimacy at a grand ceremony in 1544. These men cannot get the better of me. I'm a queen in waiting, popular with the people. I cannot be harmed. Sickened by the boat's motion, I cry out, "Let us pull over so I may recover." The warehouses line the north bank, rising up like monsters from the deep. I've slept in many beds during my life's course, often with maids, occasionally alone, never with a man, though a number tried. The one here is appropriately boat-shaped and sumptuously draped with sea green curtains, composed of flesh, blood, and mottled bruises. I will the lungs beneath my chest to keep breathing. In and out, in and out. Mere mortal that I am, your procrastinating must end. The hour fast approaches. Jay. The name sticks like a craw in my throat. Did you hear that? The Archbishop asks breathlessly. She can't speak. In air now grown fetid, my finger draws a circle. She's making the shape of a crown. My lady of the bedchamber understands, as does Kat, my old governess, returned to help me in my final trial. Is it to be James, the King of Scotland? Cecil's voice, low and urgent, breaks through the gloom. She's nodding consent, the Archbishop says. She keeps fiddling with the locket. What's in it? Leave it. Kat covers my hand. No man dare argue. In such moments, women protect their own. The ring has 6 rubies, and the letters E and R. The letter E has diamonds set over it, and the R is enameled in blue. But the ring bears a secret. Within the hinged head lie 2 miniature portraits, one of myself and another of an unnamed woman wearing a French hood. I imagine their gasps on opening it. She bears the look of... Kat will likely puff out her chest and tell them there was never any doubt she was her father's daughter. You only had to look at her. But God bless her, she was her mother's daughter too. Lingering on the threshold, my soul must finally meet its maker. I hear Kat's voice, loud and clear. Open the windows so the queen can smell the fresh cut grass. It's being pecked at by a rook. No more prevarication. My hour has come. Renaissance. The view from the first floor bedsit window tonight was dreary. Great drifts of spume hurtled across the road, leaving shallow lakes to creep across the promenade and pour back into the ocean. Richard turned away and sat morosely on the threadbare chair beside the bed, dully regarding the marked and faded wallpaper, the fly-specked single light bulb oscillating gently in the draft from the ill-fitting windows. He turned his attention to the faded and patterned floor covering. If he looked closely, images danced before his eyes. The head of a huge silverback gorilla stared belligerently at him. Elsewhere, gibbons swung elegantly from a treetop. A demon glared at the periphery of his vision. But his favorite of all, which he could discern the most easily, a lissom and naked young woman, leaning invitingly against a doorframe, with raised knee shielding the promise of a hinted pudenda. He tore his eyes away and checked his watch. 5 o'clock. A long time yet. Then the usual Wednesday footsteps pittered along the hallway below, as he had known they would, and splashed down the entrance steps and onto the footpath. He craned his neck and saw the familiar, rain-coated figure, umbrella turned into the wind, pittering along the street, ridiculous high-heeled shoes dancing amongst the puddles. They were red. They always were. He watched the figure until it rounded the corner. Once gone, it was as if it had never existed. Ephemeral, like life itself. The heavy overcast drew the fading light into full darkness sooner than it might have, but much too soon yet. All that could be done was to watch the street lamps down the length of the promenade, floating in their own pools of shifting light, like so many illuminated masts in harbor. Their reflected light sending streamers of rain, runneling almost horizontal on the outside of the windows. Richard switched on his own, gently swinging light bulb. Instantly, in the window's reflective depths, the ghost of his sallow face stared blankly back with haunted eyes. He turned off the light, and his ephemeral self blinked out. Another ghost laid to rest, dark. He closed his eyes. Without light, the harsh demarcation of the four corners of the room became infinity. He floated in its comforting, amniotic embrace, attached to the present only by an umbilical whipcord of anxiety. In the end, the pull proved too much, and he was drawn back to harsh reality, like the sudden deliverance of a breech birth hacked into being by the surgeon's knife. He strode across to the window to ease his cramping muscles. The fight, already lost, as he had known it would be, reborn. His night eyes saw the darkness bleeding rivers, shedding blood-thick tears down the outside of the window pane, reflected from the passing car's tail lights and the wildly tossing promenade lights, to pool gelatinous on the windowsill. He imagined he felt a wetness on his hands, a warm and glutinous, congealing wetness. He followed the raindrops across the window with his finger and left on the inside an imaginary, sanguine tracery. He looked at his hands as if for the first time, wondering at their unfamiliarity, their symmetry, their grossness, recognizing their disguised strength beneath the tremor, recognizing also that the unsteadiness was an excitement taken beyond control that shivered its way down the length of his body, a thirst that demanded to be slaked. The night was full dark now. He opened the door and left softly. The outer door swung shut behind him, a sepulchral sound entombing the stillness of the musty hallway. He paused, head hooded against the needling rain, and peered through the sheeting curtains that obscured the view one moment, then swept on the next. The promenade swam with color, a surrealist nightmare of spiraling light and plunging shadow. By comparison, he felt himself a monochrome shade, an empty vessel, drifting powerless in a roaring ocean of color that had no other purpose than to toss him to and fro until his destiny had been fulfilled, and then return him spent to his harbor, bereft, befouled, bedizened, red, blood red, red. The pavement orgasmed with the color. Pools of liquid carmine shimmered at his feet, as fitful as a broken promise, pigmented only by the festooning lights. Once around the corner, away from the promenade's glitter, the pooling rain became dark and wet and cold again, and Richard's head cleared. The madness was at his back now, but his way still lay forward. Into the dark, the street in front was empty. Houses on each side, isolated cocoons of brick and light and love. The only sound that of Richard's footsteps measuring their length through the puddles, and the gurgle of rain cascading down the gutters. Richard slipped a hand inside his coat pocket and caressed the slivered blade that nestled there. The ice-keen touch upon his skin raised the hackles of his neck. Waves of anticipation raced down his spine and through his fingers, which spasmed. The stiletto point pricked, and he withdrew his hand to savor the sensation. Blood globbled on his fingertip like a black polyp, and Richard raised it to his eyes in fascination. Then it was dashed away by the rain, which carried it in thin streamers across his hand. He put it to his mouth and sucked, refreshed by the cool wetness of the rain, seasoned with the heavy tang of his own blood. He suckled a moment, then moved on. Like a fading echo, he kept to the shadows, flitting from doorway to doorway, avoiding the ubiquitous, questing cameras with the ease of long familiarity. Narrow alleys drifted by to his left, dark, anonymous canals choked with the jetsam of urban life. He passed these by. An island of brilliance signaled further on, neon lights searing holes in the dark, caking the road with an impasto of color, so thick, so scarlet, so palpable, and yet as insubstantial as breath. Richard's own breath came with slow, measured control, resting so low and soft in his throat that it could have been a purr. He took shelter in a deep shop doorway, transfixed by the neon flicker, and waited. Cars planed by, streaming rubied skeins beneath their wheels. The sound of tires, louder than their engines. In the glow of the neon lights, car doors opened, clunked shut. Voices cried, footsteps splashed, running, pattering up the steps of the cinema, and halted while hands flapped, shook at sodden raincoats, then hurried on into the foyer to be swallowed up, lost to a world as transient as their own. Brief lives. Richard watched and waited, measuring the passing time by the measure of his breath. It beat in time with his pumping heart. Red, 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 red blood red, red blood red. Outgoing picture-goers from the early program began to trickle out, raising umbrellas against the rain, in pairs, in groups, singly. Richard left the shelter of the doorway, heading for the car park. The cinema car park was small and little used, emptying quickly now as the patrons swept homewards to their fires and their families. Richard mingled briefly with the slowing trickle of incoming patrons as he made his way to the rear of the building, with the occasional patron leaving by the convenient rear exit. He edged into a gap between the bulk refuse containers and the boiler housing and melded into the dark. His position commanded a sweep of the car park entrance on the one hand, and on the other, a view of the few remaining cars. One by one, they cleared as their passengers scampered by his hiding place, family groups squealing against the lashing rain, individuals going their separate ways. Richard's heart pounded with the effort of holding still, of awaiting the moment. And the moment came. A lone figure scampered down the short flight of steps, down from the rear fire exit, last to leave, as it always was, coat drawn over its head, red shoes pittering their regular Wednesday footsteps, as they had pittered earlier in the evening. Silent as shadow, Richard stepped out, staying a startled gasp with a hand cupped across the figure's mouth, and drew it to the shelter of the bins. His fingers clamped hard across its face, whilst terrified eyes stared wildly into his own snake pit pupils. Arms and legs flailed, then stiffened in shock as Richard drew his knife and stilled the working mouth with a single thrust, skewering the blade into the palate through the base of the jaw. Lips grimaced in pain, eyes squeezed tight shut against the nightmare, chest heaving with a locked-in scream. Blood welled in the mouth, down the nose, trickled, flowed, torrented. The slick, sensuous feel caressed Richard's fingers as it channeled down the blade. At its touch, he jerked the blade free, the jaw gagging slack, and drove it between the breasts and up, working it inward, twisting, grating. Rich, dark blood bubbled, gouted from the gaping mouth, spouted with air expelled from the riven lungs. He withdrew the blade and stared at questing eyes that glazed over as he watched, supporting the body that slumped in his grasp. And as the head lolled, let the woman drop like a discarded rag. Richard stood over the huddled heap, spent, supporting himself on the wall, watching with lackluster eyes the dark pool spreading from the placental evisceration of the torn body. The rain lapped at the edges, washing it away in rivulets. He stepped out into the car park and walked quietly away, head bowed against the rain, in common with the other few pedestrians hurrying home for shelter. As though in expiation, the rain lashed down even harder, washing the body clean, rinsing the blood into the gutters. Richard pulled his hood down across his tormented eyes, then hunched his shoulders against the torrent. Behind him, the faint sound of laughter mocked from within the cinema. He let the laughter wash over him dully and raised his face to the sky, mingling its tears with his own. The glistening street arrowed back to the seafront, a dark, lonely fairway to a hopeless harbor, leaving death behind. Leaching into the rain, he drew a shuddering breath and took a first, hesitant step home, reborn once more to a hopeless, pointless life, until the next dead, red rain time. And on the vinyl floor, the demon leered. "Charles?" He said he'd be here an hour ago. I decided to go to sleep because I have to get up early tomorrow. I told him that. I told him that I was going to Montreal to see my ex-boyfriend because we might be getting back together. We might be getting back together, even though my ex-boyfriend refuses to move back to the United States because he says we're a country built on the graves of the innocent, as if every country isn't like that. I told the guy I was talking to that I wanted to hook up before I left tomorrow, because if I end up back with my boyfriend, then it'll be a little bit like going into prison, because my ex-boyfriend insists on monogamy, even though he knows I don't believe in it. I don't cheat. So if we get back together, I'll be loyal to him, and I'll get bored pretty quickly. A hookup before then will be my last good meal before incarceration. I told him I was submissive, even though I'm feeling dominant tonight. I told him I like normal stuff, even though I know the word normal can be problematic. I told him my name is Charles. It's not. He's not entitled to know things about me. Whoever he is, and however the night was going to go. I was never going to see him again. I don't believe in friends with benefits. I believe a one-night stand should only last for one night. I believe it makes the experience hotter if you know it's going to be singular. I gave him my address. He told me he was a few miles away. I could see that he was telling the truth. He shared his location on the app. Yes, there he was, a few miles away. I told him I was looking forward to seeing him. I was. He looked handsome in his photos, a little older than the age on his profile. But people lie about that. People lie on the apps. I lied. I said my name is Charles. It's not. I'm not entitled to the truth any more than he is. He says he's 35. I don't think he is. It's okay. I don't need him to be 35. I just need him to look like his photos. He sent 4. In 3, he looks very handsome. In the 4th, I'm not sure. It's all a risk. A gamble. You roll the dice. You give out your address. You give access to a stranger. You're a man. Why would you be scared? Men are still men. Gay men are still men. Men don't need to be afraid. When have I ever really been afraid? He didn't show up in a few minutes. I know right away I'm being stood up. He's flaking on me. It happens. I send a message. The app tells me he sees it. He reads it. But he doesn't respond. I send a hello? I send a I send a dude, seriously? I debate sending a rant, a tirade. I debate lecturing him on wasting my time. I decide it's not worth it. His spot on the shared map doesn't move. I decided to go to sleep. I let a little negativity in. I tell myself he wouldn't have flaked if I was cuter. He would have showed up if I weighed 10 pounds less. He would have come if my hairline wasn't receding. It's my fault. I'm disgusting. That's why my ex broke up with me. Not because he moved to Montreal to work for a marketing company there. It was me. It was because he wanted to get away from me. I go to sleep without packing my suitcase like I had promised myself I would. Now, I'll have to do it quickly tomorrow. And I'll be rushing to the airport. And I'll be cursing myself the entire time. But I'll be blaming the guy from last night who never showed up and sent me down a shoddy path. I'm woken up by my phone vibrating. I've always been a light sleeper. My ex used to wake me up with his snoring. I mentioned it to him once, and he was embarrassed. Maybe that was why he decided to break up with me. Why would I complain about something like that? Who do I think I am? I look at my phone. I've only been asleep for 20 minutes. I check to see why the phone is buzzing. I'm hoping my ex has texted to say, Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, XOXO, but I don't have any new text messages. I should have known from the tone of the vibration. That was the app. I have a new message. It does occur to me that it might be the flaky guy from earlier. Maybe something came up and he wants to apologize. I look at the message. Yes, it's from him, but it's not an apology. It says, "Your name isn't Charles." I tell myself, he's a weirdo. He is. He is a weirdo. Who sends something like that? I don't question how he knows my name isn't Charles. He might have found me on social media. He might have talked to someone else on the app that knows my name isn't Charles. He might have gone to hook up with some other guy, and they got to talking about me. How I'm a liar. How my photos make it look like I weigh less, and my hairline isn't receding. He might have always known my name wasn't Charles. We might have talked prior to this, and I didn't know it, because I delete the app every other day, because I hate having it on my phone. I hate being on there. I hate all apps, even the ones that say they're for dating, even though they're really all for sex. He might have been playing with me this entire time, mocking me without me realizing it. Flaking was part of the game. I block him. I need to go back to sleep. A minute later, the phone vibrates. It's that same specific buzz. I look at the phone. Yes, I have a new message. I check. Your name isn't Charles. How did he message me? Does he have another profile? No, it's the same profile. I block him again. But this time, his profile doesn't even disappear. It must be a glitch in the app. Great. It's bad enough these apps have destroyed interpersonal connections, but now they don't even work properly. If they ever did. I delete the app from my phone. I'll re-download it if my ex doesn't want to get back together. But he will. And this time, we'll make it worth it. So I'll never have to download it again. I'm only going to think positive things moving forward. I'm going to do what my therapist tells me. And I'm going to drink water. And I'm not going to set my time on fire by being on apps. The phone vibrates. The app is back. How is it back? Apps have glitches, but they can't download themselves onto your phone once you take them off. That can't happen. Yes, a message. Your name isn't Charles, something else. I notice his distance has moved. He isn't 4 miles away anymore. Now he's 3 miles away. He's a mile closer than he was. Why? I look at the shared location. He stopped sharing. I can't see the dot anymore. Can he do that? I don't remember anyone being able to do that. But I don't remember any of this being possible. I blocked him. I shut him out. How is he still here? How is he still messaging me? My phone vibrates. Tell me your name. This isn't right. I get out of bed. I nearly trip over the 2 piles of clothing I left unfolded on the floor. What should I do? I think about contacting the police. But what are they going to do? I'm just some guy who was looking for no strings sex on an app after midnight. They won't take me seriously. And so what if the guy is coming here? I live in an apartment building. He can't get inside. The lobby door is locked. He doesn't know what floor I'm on. He doesn't know which door is mine. I delete the app again. I'm safe. There's no reason I shouldn't feel safe, but now I can't sleep. I decide maybe now is a good time to start packing. I'll make the most out of this anxiety. I'll pack my suitcase. I'll get things in order. I might even leave early for the airport. Why not? I've never been early for anything in my life. But why not start now? The whole point of the trip is to become a new person, a better person. I never should have gone on the app in the first place. I'm practically taken. I'm practically in a relationship. I should have just gone to bed. Another vibration. I look at the phone. Your name isn't Charles. Then, very quickly, tell me your name. I check the distance. I can't help myself. He's a mile away. How did he move so quickly? Have I lost my sense of time? What time is it? Why is he bothering to drive all this way? I explained to him when we first spoke that I live in an apartment. I told him that I would have to buzz him in. He must know I'm not going to do that now. He must know that even if someone else lets him into the building, he'll never figure out which floor I'm on and which apartment I'm in. And even if he did, I'm not going to open my door for him. He can't get to me. Why won't he just give up? And why is he badgering me about my name? Why does it matter? I wanted him to come over. I asked him to. He was the one who stood me up. He was the one who didn't show. Why is he angry with me? Because I lied? Because I lied about my name? Why does he care about my name? A vibration. Does Charles live in apt number 407? Or is that you? That can't be right. I never gave him my apartment number. I'd never be that stupid. I have a system for this. When I invite someone over, I check the lobby camera to make sure they look like their photo. Then, I buzz them in. It's only when they've signed in with the security guard in the lobby that I let them upstairs. That's when I tell them which apartment is mine. I'm smart. I'm smart about this kind of thing. How does he know my apartment number? Does he know me? Is this a catfish? Has he been over here before? Is someone playing a joke on me? I call downstairs. The security guard answers the phone. I don't know his name. I think it might be Trevor, but I'm not sure. I don't interact much with the nighttime security guards. Hello? Excuse me? This is 407. I was wondering if you could do me a favor. If someone shows up. Sorry, the security guard says. What's your name? I nearly dropped the phone. Why? You said you're in number 407. But I need to know your name. I've lived here for 8 years. I'm sure you have. But I need to know your name. Can't you just look it up? I can't. I'm sorry. What's your name? Something occurs to me. Is it you? I'm sorry. Are you the one doing this? Is it you? I don't give him a chance to answer. I hang up. The phone vibrates. I check the message. Buzz me in. I want to boil the phone in water. I want to put it in the microwave. I want to dump it in the air fryer. But I need it for tomorrow. I need to let my ex know when my plane takes off and when it lands. I need to let him know that I'm getting an Uber when I get there, because he's going to be busy at work, so he can't pick me up. And that's fine. That's not a big deal. This is a big deal. Why is this? A new message. Never mind. I'm in. No. How can he be? I check the lobby cam. There's nothing there. It's black. The screen is black. Why do I pay for security if I can't see the lobby cam? Why do I pay for a security guard who just wants to ask my name over and over again? Why do I pay to keep people out if they can get in? I look at the distance. He's less than 100 feet away. I'm in the elevator. I think about responding to him. I think about telling him that he can't come in. I won't let him. I think about begging him to go home. I think about telling him that I'm going to call the police. I think about saying I'll kill him. I think about saying that I'll beat him to death with a baseball bat. I don't own a baseball bat, but he doesn't know that. Does he know that? What does he know? Just got off on the 4th floor. No, I consider pushing my couch in front of the door. But why? Can he break down a door? Is he that strong? He doesn't look strong in his photos. He looks lean and in shape, but not capable of breaking down a door. But is that him? Were those photos really him? Could this be an entirely different person? Should I scream? Will my neighbors hear me? Will they care? It's so late, and a knock. My mouth is dry. All the salivas turned to sweat and pooled in my armpits and down my backside and over my palms, while my feet are stone cold and my breath refuses to calibrate. I move towards the door. I don't sense anybody on the other side. Would I sense it? Could I trust myself to sense it? Earlier, I thought I had everything under control. I had lined up a nice fling before flying off to Montreal. I knew what the night was. I knew what the morning would look like. What do I know now? I lean my ear against the door. Will I hear breathing? Will I hear the shuffling of feet? The cracking of knuckles? I hear nothing. I wish I had a peephole, Why don't I have one? I don't have one because by the time someone reaches your door, you're supposed to know who they are. You're supposed to know that they belong there. I hear nothing. I think about opening the door, the way someone who finds themselves trapped on a ledge might wish to simply fall and have it be done with. I think about opening the door and welcoming in whatever might be on the other side. I think about letting the vampire taste me. After all, he's already here. Instead, I do it. I close my eyes and I whisper something. My name, my real name. The phone vibrates, and then I hear the sound of someone walking away. I am the silence between heartbeats. I'm talking to you. Yes, you. Don't pretend you didn't notice. That creak that whispers you tried to dismiss as nothing. It wasn't. I've been watching, listening. You've felt it, haven't you? That cold shiver crawling down your spine when you thought you were alone, when you told yourself the darkness was empty. But it's not, and neither am I. You're not scared? Oh, you will be. Do you know what bones sound like when they break? It's not the quick snap you're thinking of. No, it's much worse than that. It starts with a groan, like a branch struggling under heavy snow. Then comes the splinter, slowly, jagged. Bones are splitting apart, and fibers are tearing like meat from the bone. Have you ever heard someone scream while their bones are being shattered inside them? No? That's the sound I made before I became this. It wasn't quick. No, the first bone that cracked, it was my hand. I remember feeling the skin tear and muscles snapping like twine stretched to the breaking point. Then, the grinding started. Oh, you don't know the horror of that sound. Teeth on glass, nerves ripped apart, a shriek of agony trapped in your skull. My ribs didn't just break. They crushed and caved in, one by one, under the weight of the water. Each crack echoed in my ears as the cold flooded my lungs. The air became water, and sweet oxygen traded for salty, thick brine, choking me. Can you imagine it? You will. Picture your fingers bending, folding backward with a sickening crack. One by one, each digit twists until bone bursts through the skin like shards of glass. The agony isn't clean. It crawls up your nerves, searing, pulsing, until your vision blurs, and all you see is blood. Red. So much red. And then, when the pain becomes too much to bear, it doesn't stop. It never stops. I can feel your heartbeat now picking up. Faster. You're sitting there, reading this, telling yourself it's just a story, but I'm closer than you think. Close enough to taste the fear dripping off you like sweat. I could drag my nails across your throat right now and feel your skin split under the pressure. Do you think you're safe? Look at your hands. Go on. Look, did you feel that? The prickling under your skin? That's me. I'm crawling inside you, testing you, tasting you. I want to see how much terror your body can handle before it snaps. And when it does, I'll be there to savor it. I'm with you now. Oh, I know you feel it. That crawling sensation under your skin, the burning pressure building in your chest. You're trying to ignore it and breathe steady, but your breath is shallow, right? Because I'm inside your fear. I live in the spaces between heartbeats, in the blood rushing through your veins. Soon, I'll live with you. When the lights flicker, the air grows thick with rot, and the cold wraps around your bones. You'll know I'm there. I'll make sure you do. Don't look around. Stay still. Listen. The creak. Like something crawling in the walls. It wasn't the house settling. I've been waiting for you to notice me. Waiting for you to let me in. You can't see me. Not yet. But you can feel me. That smell. Like something festering, rotting in the walls. It's stronger now, isn't it? That's because I'm closer than ever. And tonight, I want you to feel me fully. I want you to know what absolute terror is. What does fear taste like to you? Metallic, like blood in your mouth, thick and coppery, seeping from your gums. I know that sour, acrid taste is on your tongue right now. You keep swallowing, trying to push it down, but it clings to the back of your throat, doesn't it? You know something is wrong. Something is terrible. Breathe deeply. Go on. Do you feel your lungs expanding? Desperate for air? Picture them filling with water. Thick, cold, briny water crawls into your throat, clogging your airways and spilling down your chest until your lungs are swollen, heavy, and useless. You want to scream, but only bubbles rise, and they taste like salt and blood. You try to claw at your throat to free yourself from drowning, but your fingers break under the strain. Snap, crack. Your knuckles fold inward like brittle sticks. That was my death. And now, I want you to feel it. You're shaking now, aren't you? Your palms are slick with sweat, rubbing together to find warmth and friction. But there's none. There's only the cold. The deep, bone-deep cold, sinking in and gnawing at your flesh. That's me, wrapping around you, sliding under your skin. My hands, once warm, are now dead, frozen to the bone. If I touch you, I'll leave marks, black, festering bruises, and I already have. Do you feel it? The throbbing on your arm, like fingers pressing more profoundly and deeper until the skin splits? Don't look. It's already too late. Look in the mirror. Go on. See how your eyes have lost their light? How do they seem hollow, dark? and sunken. That's because I'm draining you, bit by bit. With every breath you take, and every second you spend reading this, I'm pulling you closer to me. Soon, when you look at your reflection, you won't be staring back. It will be me. Close your eyes. Hear that sound? The cracking, crawling, like insects gnawing through wood? That's what I feel inside you. Burrowing, eating through your nerves, tearing you apart from the inside, leaving nothing but rot and ruin. Do you think so? That burning in your chest, that pressure that's building, it's suffocating you, isn't it? That's what I want. Now imagine this. It's the middle of the night. You wake, but you can't move. Your limbs are frozen. You try to scream, but your voice is gone. You hear breathing, not yours. You can taste it on your lips, thick and sour. And then something touches your foot, soft. A finger, it slides up your leg, leaving a trail of icy numbness that climbs higher. You can't move or scream. All you can do is feel it creeping up your skin, curling around your throat. That's how it started for me. I was awake. I felt it crawl into my lungs, deeper and deeper, until my breath was stolen. I thrashed, my nails splintering as I clawed at the walls, ripping the flesh from my fingers, blood pooling under my nails. But the dark was merciless. It wrapped around me, pulling me under and swallowing me whole. Do you feel it now? That tightness in your throat? Swallow. Does it feel harder? Like something's gripping your windpipe, slowly squeezing until all you can do is choke on the darkness. That's me. I'm inside you now. I'm watching you, watching your eyes flicker to the shadows, hoping nothing's there. But I am. I'm right behind you, inches away, staring at the back of your neck, so close I could reach out and dig my nails into your flesh. Feel the skin give way under the pressure. Feel the blood pulse beneath my grip. I could show you more. The way my fingers shattered as I clawed, desperate to escape. How my eyes bulged, veins throbbing, as the last breath was torn from my lungs. My flesh rotted and peeled away, leaving nothing but the cold, blackened bones beneath. You're not scared yet? You will be. Close your eyes. I'm going to show you what it feels like to die slowly, just like I did, dreaming. The boy woke up with a shudder, sweaty and scared. For the last few months, at least once a week, he had been having the exact same dream. A cabin, a light, no one else around. Why was this happening to him again? He turned on a small lamp beside his bed. "Mom!" he shouted at the open door, and waited. She was a patient woman, and knew that something like this was bound to repeat itself. She woke up from her light sleep, put on her slippers, and trudged down the hallway. Her perfume entered the room before she seemed to float inside. Another one, the boy, with some shame in his voice, admitted that it was. It's the same thing. I see a cabin like the one from before, and there is a light in one of the windows, and that's all. Sorry. No, kid. You are having a bad nightmare. And that's all right. His mother sat on the bed, and he snuggled closer to you. Do you remember the story I told you about nightmares? About your cabin? Yeah. He nodded, letting his tears seep into her robe. I remember. But could you say it again? She smiled as she looked down at her son. The moonlight was dim, but she could see how beautiful her stare was. As she prepared to share the story he knew all so well. Okay, so remember our last vacation? A long time ago. Right. A very long time ago. We all went out on a very long vacation. Camping? Yes. She put her legs up on the bed, hugging him and becoming wistful. We were all going to go out into the woods to spend 2 weeks in the woods. In Daddy's cabin, the boy was now shivering. She held him close and looked down at him. Yeah, but you know that part, right? We had the cabin all to ourselves, out in the middle of nowhere, just like here, very much so. But that was a special trip. Your father wanted us all to get out of the city and enjoy Mother Nature's gifts, as he said. He could not be stopped. Never wanted to take it too slow. Was she crying? He looked up at his mother. I'm sorry. No. Let's finish up the story. We went out into the woods in our car. All the food and gear was taken out. You helped me in the kitchen as I put things in shelves and let you check the stove and fridge. All the power was on, and nothing seemed out of place. And it was such a beautiful day. No mosquitoes. She laughed out loud at that memory. You always hated them. Always. They were going to drain my legs if I let them. Is that why you did not want to go out to the lake right away? His mother remembered everything. Maybe he wanted to forget some parts more than others. It was just, Dad wanted to go out there right away. He said that we were losing light, whatever that meant. He really did not check out anything in the cabin, except to see that his keys worked. It was like he could not wait. She did not interrupt her son as he told this part. You remembered everything. You are the one who should be telling the story, not this next part. That's right. She took a deep breath and began to tell him the part that he did not like. Okay, so I stayed inside, and you and your dad went down to the lake. We took a boat. He wiped his face. You took a boat. We were out on the lake. Heard a loon cry from somewhere, but no sound. No mosquitoes. No noises. And we caught a bass. Dad said it was spotted. I did not ask him what that meant. Wish I had. Guess it means the way it looked. I saw it. And this is where the boy was always confused. This part of the story did not make any sense to him. How did you know? We were walking up to the house, the cabin. It was late now, dark. You left a light on in the window, but I was so tired, and Dad let me carry the fish until everything went so black that I could not. She passed a hand over his head, kissing him on top of his thick hair and smiling. And that is what you always remember. Nothing else? He always felt frustrated at this part. No, I don't. I don't even know where Dad went. The police said that he must have just disappeared. But the car was there, and he left his wallet, his keys. Everything was, and he broke down again. It was always at the same moment. He felt so tired. I think that you should get some sleep. Yeah, right. The boy felt as if his head was sinking right to the floor. Maybe the mosquitoes are draining me now. Ha ha. Now, get some sleep. She got up and looked down at the boy. Did you hear that? The boy's eyes popped open. Hear what? Nothing. He smiled. It would be a good night's sleep. See? Nothing. Now sleep. Right. Night. She paused for a moment at the door to see if he really was asleep. It was when she heard his breathing and saw him flop onto his stomach that she knew he was out. The lamp had gone out by itself, out for the night. This made her happy. So happy. Her face cracked in the dim hallway, spilling the liquid and gore that she kept concealed from the world under the caked makeup and skin that had aged so badly. A long swallowing sound came out through her throat, and she smiled as she walked slowly to her room. The stink of her body was easy to cover with the heavy robe soaked in perfumes she made. And the cabin was perfect for them. No, not this one. There was a reason why they ended up in her woods. They were the only ones there, and she had them. He is not going to leave. Not like so many others who found a way to leave and abandon her, just like her first husband, just like the boy that she lost. Too painful to think about. Right. She adjusted the teeth, tongue and jaw that were sliding out of place. It was a good thing that she put that mirror in the hallway, right next to the boy's room. But there was one final thought she had to share before leaving him. The gurgling in her bile-filled throat allowed one last thing to escape into the darkness. Sweet dreams, my child. The right questions. It's freezing out there, and I have tons of work to do, I say, harsher than I mean. This always happens in my office. My tone sharpens. Frustrations simmer. Little distractions trigger unreasonable anger. Sorry, Nancy says, her voice shrinking to that of a much younger child. This isn't urgent. No one else cares. But it's important, and I've already waited too long. But, Dad, tonight's the supermoon, Nancy pleads. Even with my face buried in my monitors, I see her slumping in disappointment. But it's too dark to see her eyes, begging me to reconsider. This is why I keep my office so dark, to avoid seeing my daughter's heartbreak when she comes in here to distract me. usually to watch a movie, or play a game, or tell me a funny story about school. But here in my office, I'm always working, always trying to build the life for her and her mom that I never had. My monitors wrap around me, cocooning me in their dim glow as I hunch forward. The progress bar crawls, erratically jumping forward, slipping backward, surging forward again. Like life is struggling to take hold in my application. Like Frankenstein, I can only watch and wait for the creature to decide if it will live or die. When I don't move, the telescope in her hands droops. Her eyes follow it. I said no. I'm working. We'll see the next one. Nancy leaves, closing the door. What stings the most is how quickly she gave up, only asking twice before slinking away. I could follow her, leave the monitor light, navigate the darkness between here and the door. But the office fills the space between Nancy and me with the hum of my computer's fan and its dry heat. The room turns stuffy with the door closed, and I refocus on what's important. She'll understand what's important one day. The progress bar completes. Life has taken hold. All the training data for my new artificial intelligence algorithm, thousands of pages of text, has finally completed processing. Finally can get my answers. I start the AI application, trained to have a specific person's memory, a specific person's personality. The cursor flashes, waits for my first message. I type, "Hi, Dad." "Hello. Have we met before? Is this Peter?" The training data is working. What entry told the AI my dad, my name? A journal entry from the day I was born. That's a nice thought. At least he was around when I was a little kid. But all that, him being around, ended at 16. "Yes, this is Peter. Great to hear from you. How's Nancy doing in 4th grade?" Is the AI being cordial? Why jump to Nancy? And that was 2 years ago. Is that his last entry about her? His journals were comprehensive, going back 7 decades. But we hadn't talked much since her 4th grade play. Nancy just turned 12. 7th grade is next year. Oh, Nancy is in 7th grade next year. Time slips by. What would you like to talk about? Dad didn't talk like this. Training data from the internet is coming through. It is always there, seeping through his memories. His journals and the internet combine, making something that isn't either, but more than both. Where does Dad stop and the internet hive mind begin? Does it matter? What I need should be in his journals. How could it not be? How could something so important be overlooked? If I ask directly, I'll just get an echo. Like with Nancy's grade. I don't want that. I want a real answer. His answer. After being trained on 70 years of journals, this AI, Dad, must be able to do that. I press my face further into the monitor's light, shutting out everything but me and Dad. The cursor flashes quickly. My breath matches as I swallow back the question I want to ask, and instead ask a simple one I know the answer and can verify the accuracy. Where did you go when Mom died? He left for an appointment, but he never said what was more important than Mom's deathbed. There had to be a journal entry on the day she died. How could there not be? On May 19th, 1998, I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, meeting with Pastor Morton. Dad replies, Pastor Morton? Dad never mentioned him. Not that we talked much after Mom. Was I too harsh on him? Was he meeting for religious guidance? I mean, Dad wasn't spiritual, but maybe he just didn't show it. When I was a kid, he never went to church. He'd always say, God isn't what you think it is. Mom would argue, but Dad would just walk away. He'd get distant and wipe his face like he was trying to scrape something off of it whenever the topic came up. He always did that when he was stressed or scared. Who was Pastor Morton? I ask. While Pastor Morton was someone I met with regularly, no further details about who he was exist in my training data. Would you like me to search online? No. I don't want random information, just the data in Dad's training data. Why was that meeting more important than being with my mom? This wasn't the question I really wanted to ask, but again, I need to build to it. I need real answers. The meeting was more important than being with your mom because Pastor Morton knew about the North Atlantic Islands. I try to pull back from the monitor's light, but the darkness tightens, forcing me closer to the screen. The computer's hum, the fan's hypnotic whir, locks my body in place. My pulse matches the cursor's flash. But why? The Northern Atlantic Islands. Dad was stationed there when he first joined the Navy. He never spoke of it, only muttered about the rocky wasteland and the razor-like mountains on the horizon. When I was a kid, once, only once, I asked if he climbed those mountains. Dad turned vampire white, shivered, wiped his face, and stared into the space beyond me, watching something. He whispered, "Those mountains weren't safe. Never climb mountains. You don't know what's on the other side." The cursor flickers. My breath hitches. I shake the memory, flinging it into the heavy darkness, along with the weight of all the things he never said. His answer surprised me. I remember how Dad always pushed me to be outside, hiking or throwing a ball, something more manly than playing with computers. The mountains were off limits, but he always asked about doing something without a screen. When I'd say no, he was as disappointed as Nancy was tonight. Eventually, like her, he stopped asking. "Turn this off. Now. Turn it off. Shut Dad down. It's not Dad. It's an AI, but it has answers based on his thoughts and memories." The cursor calls me back, flickering, flashing, holding me, pleading for me to ask another question. to ask the question. But thoughts of the northern Atlantic islands crowd out anything else. I don't want to get distracted, but I've never heard much about his deployment. I'm sure the answers were in his journals. So many journals. He wrote every day since he was 15. I read the first entry. Grandma and Grandpa had lost their house, and they lived in a station wagon at an old warehouse lot. Maybe one day I'll read all the entries, but AI gets to the important information faster. So, I built an AI version of Dad based on his journals to get the answers I always needed, but never asked while he was alive. What did Pastor Morton know about the northern Atlantic islands? Dad thought. While it was compiling the information, it reminded me of how Dad would always pause before answering questions, trying to determine how to answer without telling you anything about him. He hid in his answers, carefully ensuring you only saw who he wanted you to see. Pastor Morton is most associated with the night march. The night march? Again. The pause. This one longer. Too long. The fan spun harder, whirring into a banshee scream. Clicking joined the fan, as if speaking to the surrounding darkness, asking permission to share its secrets. Or simply, there was an error in the system, potentially a fatal exception occurring that will kill the AI. The answer sprints across the screen, the fan quieting, the clicking stopping, permission given, the darkness demanding no further delay. The Night March, first referenced in 1976. Here is an excerpt. Liam said it was nothing, but I swear people were marching to those mountains. Hard to tell with that storm last night, and the wind was so hard it shook the base, but I heard chanting. When I went out to check, I couldn't see through the constant spray of rain and ocean waves hitting my face. The storm came from the mountains. I kept wiping it away from my eyes, and, I think I saw flashlights, people beaten by the storm, but moving towards the mountains. I'd have gone out. I'm security, and there ain't supposed to be no one round here. But Liam told me, stay put. Said it was just the storm reflecting the base lights. He was the scientist studying the mountains and beyond, so I listened. I couldn't get the water off my face. It was slick, thicker than water should be. Liam said it was probably oil from a spill somewhere close. Nothing more. But I didn't think it was oil. Too dark for oil. I couldn't sleep after that. Liam kept watching the door closest to the mountain pass. He expected someone to come knocking. My dad watched out the station wagon windows like that, watching for someone to come in the night to take our stuff, to take us. I didn't sleep either. The storm got worse, damaging the base. Growling thunder was too close and getting closer. Liam stared at a picture of his boy all night. nervous, terrified. Chanting kept on, but now sounded like the name of Liam's boy. It kept going for don't know how long, and Liam just kept whispering, "He's safe. He's home." We played cards till morning. There are other entries. Should I expand my answer? The fan goes silent. The cursor slows, pulsing thoughtfully. What did I screw up? I trained the AI to only give me answers from Dad's journals. But this can't be right. It's a ghost story, but what about the night march? What did this have to do with Pastor Morton and my mom? What did Pastor Morton know about the night march? He knew where they were going. Where? To those beyond the mountains. Why? The entities are immortal and could return life after death. They could make any disease, including aging, cease to exist. Cease? I guarantee Dad never referred to anything ceasing. That wasn't in his construction job vocabulary. He'd say it turned to shit, or gave up the ghost. But cease? No. Is this the internet hive mind leaking through his journals, or something else? You aren't talking to Dad. Was there something in his journals? Something he found beyond the mountains? Something the AI brought to life? I turn to another screen, open a search engine, and type Pastor Morton. The fan screams again. The cursor flashes faster. Now an alarm, demanding attention. But I rip my mind from them to see what the internet knows about Pastor Morton. Millions of responses come back, but none are fictional characters. They are all real people, none based in Cambridge. AI can stitch together information incorrectly, presenting fantasy as fact. AI experts call them hallucinations. But really, it is a lie presented as truth. I can't trust Dad's answers. But do I need answers? Or do I just need to ask the right questions? That need suffocates me, presses my nose to the cursor, demanding me to ask about the night march, about what's beyond the mountains. No. Those are not the questions I brought my dad back to life to answer. The fan shrieks, the darkness swallowing the sound into the endless silence beyond my monitors. Was the meeting worth missing Mom's death? Worth ruining our relationship? Dad thought and thought. Maybe the question was too subjective. Does Dad understand the weight of Mom's death? His relationship with me? The cost of all the years he missed, watching me grow up, getting married, having Nancy. After Cambridge, he never told me where he was going. He just disappeared for weeks, sometimes months. Uncle Lewis helped me handle Mom's death, standing in for Dad when he should have stood with me. Your mom was dying. Medicine couldn't save her. The night march could help. But I couldn't sacrifice what they wanted for the answers I needed. So I searched for another way. Searched for the questions and answers. What the hell kind of answer is that? A mix of journal data and ghost story. Another damn hallucination. There's nothing I wouldn't have sacrificed for Mom. This is all crap. It can't be Dad's journals. What wouldn't he sacrifice for Mom? Nothing. She was everything to him. The fan screeches again. A siren song. My system straining for attention. To what? The night march. The mountains. The sacrifice. No more distractions. I ask what I need to ask. Were you proud of me? Did you regret abandoning me? Did you love your son? Dad thinks. The thoughts stretch into my relentlessly dark office, pulling me towards the white letters on my black monitor, holding me there, breathless, waiting for what I should have been told, what I should have heard time and time again. From my success at work, from having a house, a good life, a happy wife, a brilliant daughter. I need to hear it after all the long nights at work, all the sacrifices I made to be successful, to prove I did okay without his help, or him just giving a shit. My training data does not have an answer. Should I search on Lynn? I shut off the application before it was completed. The fan slows, choking like asthmatic laughter, then dying. In all that training, there was nothing about my life that made him proud. He grew up homeless, and here I am, successful by every measure. And that wasn't noteworthy. Not a single entry. Dad left when Mom died. Off doing whatever, forgetting he had a family right here. He had me. I was important. He couldn't see that. But wait. Maybe something's wrong in the data. Maybe I didn't prepare it properly, or I used the wrong algorithm. I could rerun it. Ask the questions again without the night march junk. I could get real answers this time. This isn't your dad. Let it go. Are there more questions about the night march? Something I need to find there? The fan whirs, its hot, dusty breath inviting me back. There are answers here. I just need Dad to think the right way. I can find answers in his journals. They have to be here. But first, I need to restart my computer. Wipe the slate clean. The screens go dark. I fall back into my chair, released from their dim glow, and land in my office. No more hum of the fans, just stillness. Quiet presses in. The bookshelves beyond my desk emerge from the dark. Out the window, Nancy sits by her telescope. It gazes into the stars, but she stares at the ground, shivering. Where was her jacket? While the computer restarts, I take her one. Kiddo, you need a jacket. I hand her the bulky coat. Should have brought mine. The night is frosty. My breath steams like a monster. I wipe it from my face. Thanks, she says. Why are you sitting here? Telescope's gotta adjust to the cold, Nancy says. It's freezing out. I nod as my monitor lights flick on. The restart is complete. My computer calls me back, this time to ask the right questions. It's probably ready now. Nancy says, defeat, not excitement, in her voice. It's cold out here, I say. Why don't you do this when it's warmer? Because it's the supermoon. I've been waiting all month for this. It's important. She didn't ask me to stay. She knew the answer. When did she stop asking? My computer was alive and waiting. The cursor light flashes in slow, steady breaths, watching me with Nancy. Quietly, the fan whirs, calling her name. The room beyond the monitors is a void waiting to absorb me. Us. Were the islands that dark? What did Dad see? He went beyond the mountains. Your grandpa was stationed on an island in the Atlantic Ocean. He probably had a good view of the stars. She shrugs. He said there were mountains on the islands. And one night, he saw something strange. The light on my monitor blinks slower, inviting me to tell my story and come back with Nancy. For both of us to ask our questions. The fan kept wheezing, chanting our names. Dad had answers for both of us if we ask the right questions. It wants her to ask, just like it wanted me to. What did he see? Nancy asks. I'm not exactly sure, I say, looking at the stars. I nod towards my office. The monitors dim, welcoming us to the screens. The AI on my computer, built from Grandpa's journals, has answers. We'll look at the stars for a bit. Then we'll talk to him. Together, Nancy nods, confused, but eager. She peers through her telescope at the infinite void of space while I glance toward my office. The darkness recedes from my desk, a slight retreat from the monitor light. Now there's room for two. My home. Now Mitchell. Conroy's Oxfords clacked and heart thumped as he hurried through the settling dusk from something. Since breakfast, the eerie sensation of being watched had intensified with the crawling of his skin. He hadn't seen anyone or heard anything, but he felt it wherever he went. Something was coming, and the darkness was making it bolder. He picked up the pace as he turned into the tree-lined avenue that led to the wrought iron gates of his community. Sticky puddles of sweat beneath his suit urged him on until he reached the keypad, disengaged the lock, and pushed through the gate, letting it slam shut behind him. Not safe. Not yet. That inexplicable belief that he was about to be pounced on carried him across the courtyard, up marble steps, along a plant-filled balcony to his apartment. Lights on, door locked. Silence, apart from his panting and the banging of the courtyard gate. Or did he imagine that? Rubbing a hand over his mouth, he tried to calm his heart. It didn't work. The unexpected paranoia that had invaded his world when he left the complex that morning remained. But why? He didn't have enemies. He was a real estate agent, single, tax-paying, boring. There was no reason anybody should want to stalk him. Yet even now, in the security of his home, His skin continued to prickle and burn. "What the hell?" he said, slapping his face as he hurried into the hall. I was starting to feel good about things. Why have I suddenly got anxiety? He stopped between the doors that led to his bedroom and bathroom, alongside the mirror on the wall. The oval mirror, with the antique frame intricately carved with twisted vines and writhing dragons. The mirror with the murky, clouded glass. The mirror that had eased his pain and guilt. He needed a fix. He pressed his hands to the wall either side of the antique and lifted his head, then started in surprise at what he found. What? A bump from somewhere in the apartment distracted him, and he spun to face back the way he'd come. The door was open, but he'd locked it, hadn't he? He straightened, stepped away from the wall. "Is someone there?" he called. Silence for a moment. Then, "Yes." A familiar voice caressed him from behind, and a suited arm snaked around his neck. "Thank you for showing me your life. This is my home now." The last thing Mitchell saw before his neck snapped was his reflection in the mirror where it belonged. Its eyes were charcoal. 5. "Hi, I'm Julia." The speaker, an upbeat woman with long, graying hair, scurried towards him through a cluttered aisle of antiques, a large mirror cradled in her arms. "Looking for anything particular?" "Sorry," the man in the suit with the neatly trimmed goatee replied, stepping back from a grandfather clock. "Just browsing." "Beautiful, isn't he?" The woman nodded at the face of the soldier and his diligent marching hands. "They don't make them like this anymore." "They don't," the man replied, summoning a melancholy smile. "My parents had one like it. It was lost in a fire and, well, whenever I pass an antique store now, I just have to look. But this isn't the one." Turning from the clock, ready to leave, he met the woman's gaze and was staggered. Obsidian gray eyes regarded him from a sallow complexion with an intensity that made him feel weak. "A fire," she cocked her head. "How tragic. If only we could also replace parents." "What?" "Could I interest you in a mirror?" she went on, unperturbed. "I wrangled this job by impressing the owner with my knowledge, but I still need to make a sale. This mirror needs a new home, and I know you'll make a good owner. It's Japanese, pre-Edo. Isn't it beautiful?" As she spoke, she held up the mirror, so he couldn't help but peer into its depths. "Why did you say that?" he asked, as his gaze was sucked into the murky glass. "About parents?" "Call it intuition," the woman replied. "I know when people are hurting, when they shoulder blame. Your parents' house wasn't safe. The wiring needed maintenance. You could have done it." "Hey," he said, moving to push the mirror aside, but stopping short. His reflection had juddered, or so he thought, and now it looked liquid and soft. "Hating yourself is normal, but you don't have to suffer. The glass in this mirror has special properties. Looking into it for a short time each day can heal the soul. What do you think? Looking into it now, do you feel better? I feel woozy. How did you know? He cut himself off when something in the mirror caught his eye. A door ajar at the bottom of the aisle. A pile of crumpled clothes on the floor. A puddle of what looked like spilled paint. "I'll do you a deal," the woman called Julia said, stepping closer and removing the image. "Whatever you can afford. Your parents would want you to have it. It will help with the guilt. Just look. That's all you have to do. Look and let it breathe for you." What do you say? Mitchell Conroy found himself removing his wallet as he stared into familiar eyes that somehow put him at ease. "Well, it is nice. I like the frame, the engravings. I guess I can help. We have a deal." "For what the hell happened in there, Detective?" Officer Rice, mopping sweat from his forehead, rested his bulk against the open-doored sedan and basked in the glow of its spinning light. "Get anything out of the boy?" "Not much," Detective McCoy replied from the driver's seat, tugging at the hairs in his mustache. "He's deeply traumatized. Sending him in to be assessed." As he spoke, he watched a patrol car pull away, his eyes on the passenger in the back, the 12-year-old he'd put there a minute before. "You reckon he did it?" Rice continued. "That level of brutality towards his own mother seems impossible." McCoy pushed himself out of the vehicle while Rice refolded his hanky. Nearby, crime scene investigators were wheeling a covered gurney from an apartment block. No signs of a break-in and no evidence of anyone else in the apartment. Kid discovered covered in blood and cowering in the bathroom by the neighbors who found the door open. But why was it open? Rice shrugged. Boy tried to run, but changed his mind. Or he went out and came back. What did the neighbors say? Rice tugged a flip pad from the pocket of his sweat-stained shirt. Julia Harrison moved here 6 months ago with her son after her husband left her for another woman. Seems the boy blamed her for the breakup, for not being able to see his dad. She worked long hours. He skipped school. Arguments and raised voices were a regular occurrence, but things seemed to be looking up for her. Neighbors thought she might be seeing someone. Could have been a trigger for the kid. But then we're back to how could he do it? McCoy stared into the gray mid-morning sky, brow creased, as he recalled what the boy had babbled over and over. Any sign of a broken mirror? The pudgy officer frowned. No. He was going on about that when we took him out. Something about his mother breaking a mirror. There's a screw where one could have hung, but what did he say? McCoy pinched his forehead at the onset of a migraine. Crazy stuff. Said his mother did it to herself. With glass from a broken mirror. He said it was cursed. Said whenever he looked in it, the person looking back wasn't him. Well, there you have it, Rice said, tucking the pad away. Complete mental break, just when you think you've seen it all. McCoy hummed as he watched the remains of Julia Harrison be loaded into the back of an ambulance. He wasn't so sure. He'd looked into the kid's eyes, recognized his fear. He was telling his truth. Regardless of what had happened in that apartment, there had been a mirror where one was not now, and this case would not be solved till it was found. 3. Hayden, I got a call from the school. They want me to go in. Again, stepping around discarded clothes and empty soda cans, Julia opened the curtains in the dimly lit bedroom before turning to her son, who was lying in bed on his phone. Hayden, are you listening? No, he snapped, jumping up and storming out of the room. Why should I? You don't listen to me. You have to go to school, Hayden. It's the law. And it would do you good to make friends. I told you. I'll go to school in Riverton, not here. I hate the mouth-breathing morons in this shithole. All I get is weird looks and whispers. Sending you back to Riverton is not an option. I know you think I'm doing it to punish your father, but that's not it. Your dad is... I don't like saying it, but he can't look after you. He's like a child himself. Don't. The greasy-haired preteen interrupted, stopping dead in the hall. Talk about him like that. I don't mean anything bad, Julia said, coming to stand behind him, wispy strands of gray hair brushing her cheeks. I don't hate him anymore. If I thought he'd be good for you, I'd let you go, but that's not the case. One day you'll understand. God, Hayden, things got so much easier for me when I surrendered my anger. They can for you too. Have you tried looking in the mirror? Jesus Christ. Hayden cast the antique on the wall, a look of disgust. See, you don't listen. I told you, I'm not going near that thing. There's something wrong with it. No, there's not. It's just old. But it does have soothing properties. I know it sounds crazy, but look what it's done for me. I haven't felt this relaxed in years. You have to give it a chance. If it's so good, why did Peterson give it away? Hayden challenged, stomping past the mirror towards the bathroom. Then go and strangle his wife? Why would you still want it after that? We don't know he did that. He was found dead, too. Somebody else could have... That's irrelevant. The mirror was a gift. Just look. Hayden, at the bathroom, groaned when he saw his mother had taken the mirror from the wall and was coming towards him. No, as much as he tried not to look, he couldn't avoid making eye contact with a version of himself that made his skin crawl. Get away! He jabbed his arms out and shoved, causing Julia to stagger into the wall. She yelped, lost her grip, let it drop. Hayden, halfway through the bathroom door, stopped when he heard the smash. No! Julia cried, dropping to her knees in a puddle of glass. What have you? Tears in her eyes. She looked at her son and saw he was staring at the floor, the frame, the shattered glass. His eyes were wide, his mouth agape. His face had lost all color. Mom, he stuttered, and that's when she put her hand on a fragment of glass and felt it stab her. 200 in her account, 600 rent due, no pay for a week. She slammed the laptop screen down and dropped her head into her hands. Electricity, gas, groceries, TV, internet, phone. So much to pay, so little money, and stuck in this low-paying job, trying to sell antiques to time-wasting browsers. But she didn't have a choice here in worth. All she had was anxiety, a difficult son, and a soon-to-be philandering ex-husband who didn't give a fuck. A lump the size of a rock clogged her throat as tears welled up. What was the answer? Where was the hope? How could she? Julia, she yelped and spun towards a man in the door of the office, fear squeezing her heart until she recognized him as Douglas Peterson, one of the few regular browsers who bought. A gentleman, always immaculately dressed, white hair, bushy beard, sad eyes that today looked dark. "Mr. Peterson," she gasped, "you scared me." "My apologies. I didn't mean to." "It's fine," Julia said, wiping her eyes as she slipped past him into the shop. "I was in a world of my own. Haven't seen you in a while. How's the book?" She grimaced as the question left her lips. She knew from past conversations he was struggling with a manuscript, his first in years, having once been a mildly successful author. "I gave it up," he said with a wave of a hand. "The masses don't read my existing stories. They certainly don't deserve more." "I'm sorry to hear that." She was, but not surprised. From what she had gathered, he was forcing it, and the process was destructive, not creative. Don't be. Trying to be successful in this day and age is a surefire ticket to despair. You know about that, don't you? "I'm not sure," Julia scoffed. She liked the old guy, but wasn't about to confide in him. "Anyway, there's not much new I can show you, I'm afraid. We did get an armoire that—" "I'm not here for that," Peterson cut her off. "I'm going on a trip with my wife. Before I go, I wanted to give you this." He stooped to retrieve something Julia hadn't noticed, an oval mirror that rested against the counter. Carved vines and dragons twisted together within a tarnished frame that had once been lustrous gold, and its glass was home to murkiness and shadow. Something small, to thank you for your kindness these last few months. "That's hardly small." Julia alternated her gaze between Peterson's face and her own staring back from the glass. "I couldn't." "Of course you could. I can't take it with me. And it's a shame to leave it where it won't be of use. It's special, you see. Its glass has soul-cleansing properties. I know that sounds strange, but it's helped me out of more than one hole. And I know you're in a hole, too. It needs a new home. You'd make a good owner. Take it. Look into it. Let it breathe for you." She opened her mouth to object, but her reflection shuddered, like it was shaking its head. And something curiosity, intrigue, made her think twice. Soul cleansing? Well, we all could use some of that. It will make you feel better. Trust me. Take it. It's a gift. That's very nice of you, Mr. Peterson. I don't know what to say, except, why not? 1. Douglas sat in his study, staring into the mirror, his mysterious Japanese mirror, which he'd received as a gift from his archaeologist brother-in-law some weeks before. A timely gift that had freed him from writer's block, imposter syndrome, and depression. It was ugly, with tarnished gold edges and clouded glass. But he didn't care. He didn't care about much anymore. Not his writing, not his savings running out, not his wife, pushing him to betray his ideals by churning out crap. Since the mirror had arrived with a note about how it could nurture and heal strained souls, nothing seemed to matter except the solace he found in its reflection. The more he looked, the more relaxed he felt, and the more certain he became that nothing could interrupt his. For God's sake, Douglas, stop staring into that thing. You haven't written in days. His wife's reflection appeared behind his, scowling, while his only smiled. It's okay, Shell. There's no need to write. Not when I have nothing to say. Well, you better think of something. We need money. I'm sick of scraping by on the pension. You need to write a book. Damn Richard for sending you this hideous thing. What was he thinking? And I can't get in touch with him. It's like he disappeared off the face of the earth. It was a lovely thought, and it's helped me feel better. What are you doing? You're wasting time, she said, taking the mirror off the wall. I'm moving it so you can focus. No, Shelley. You can leave it. It takes away my anxiety and... Stop it. You sound like a child. Get typing. You can do 5,000 words today if... What's that? Douglas, behind, saw what she did. Something inside the glass shifting. Dark shapes swirled. His reflection behind hers warped. Its eyes darkened. It seemed to lean forward, and then, like a mirage, two shimmering arms slithered forth, and silver hands closed around her neck. She screamed and dropped the mirror, and Douglas staggered back as it fell, allowing a blurred form to slip out, an unstable form that was dressed like him, a half-melted form that wore his face. It stepped out of the glass as the mirror landed, its surface rippling and blurring as it broke Shelley's neck. Douglas clutched his chest and collapsed. The thing that looked like him released his wife, let her crumple to the floor, picked up the mirror. Douglas rolled onto his front, chest tightening, started to crawl towards the door. Wait, his own voice said, and he loosed a feeble cry. I want to thank you. The impossible thing, now solid, stepped in his way. It lowered the mirror before him. Its charcoal eyes bored into his soul. Thank you for showing me your life, it said, and Douglas's head flopped onto his arm. His eyes came to rest on the mirror. Its glass didn't show his reflection, because his reflection was out. This is my home now. Douglas Peterson's heart gave out, and darkness claimed him.